Okay, we're live streaming.
Right. Welcome, everybody, to the March 18th, 2024 meeting of the Whatcom County Fire Protection District Number 4 Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I will now call the meeting to order since it's 12 o'clock, and we'll start with roll call. My name's Steve Cooley. I'm a commissioner.
Tim Johnson, Commissioner.
Mark Land, Commissioner.
Jason Vanderveen, Fire Chief.
All right. And with that, we'll move on to the public comment period. Chief, do we have anybody waiting to comment?
No, sir.
All right, we will then open and close the public comment period and move on to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the consent agenda. All matters within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Board of Commissioners for review, are considered routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the board with no separate discussion. If a separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request. And today, our consent agenda includes the meeting minutes from our meeting on February 12th, staff reports from the chief, financial reports from Jessica and maybe others, voucher payroll and benefits reports, which document a direct deposit payroll of $483 from last month, and monthly expenditure voucher of $452.50. Our total revenue for February was $61,200.15. Total expenditures for March are $935.50. Okay, let me think here. Okay, and with that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Land moves to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Johnson seconds that motion. Any further discussion on the consent agenda before we vote? And seeing a request, no requests for any, then I would ask that all those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0 and the consent agenda is approved. All right, moving on to unfinished business. We have just a few items to discuss today. The first one is a levy lid lift or levy lid clarification last week, if you'll recall, and we can combine that maybe with the second agenda item, which is the EMS levy final rate. Last week, we discussed those items, and I'll let the chief take over from there and discuss how the paperwork included in the packet explains all that.
Okay. Yeah, the last month Commissioner Johnson pointed out that there were some differences between the budgetary numbers and the final numbers we got from the county on the fire levy. And we weren't off the meeting of about 10 minutes, and I figured out what I did. So what happened was we used, because we don't get final numbers from the county as far as the final amount of tax revenue from the levy rate until into January or even later, we used their preliminary numbers. So what I did in creating let me share my screen here real quick. Maybe that'll. Are you seeing? You're just seeing the single document here. Okay, yeah. So this line right here, is the so that's what I put down for fire revenue, fire tax revenue. When I went back and looked at the levy documents, what I did is I added what we expected to get in fire tax revenue with the EMS tax revenue. But you can see here, this line here is actually where we account for the EMS funds. So I combined them and then added EMS on top of it. My mistake. Thankfully, we are in the first year of the levy, and this is it is a $230,000 error on my part. But because we're in the first year of the levy and we had earmarked this to go into reserve, some of this to go into reserve, we're okay. The actual, let me go and show you. There's some other screens. Here. So this number down here, $3,101,822. That's the actual fire revenue. So that's just the raw fire tax revenue. Then
That's the revenue we expect to get based on the actual levy rate computed by.
that is the revenue calculated by the county that we will get.
Right. Okay.
For the fire levy. And this is the EMS levy revenue, $418,532.37. So,
And we note the fire levy rate they computed is 13 cents essentially, right?
yes, you can see here that that levy rate's dropped from 16 cents last year to 13 cents this year.
Okay.
So that total combined is $3,520,000, 3,520,354.73. So it's like I said, it's $227,817 short of what we have here in the budget, or what we put in the budget. So that, oops.
And summarize again why that is.
Because
Because of
I
a clerical error, essentially.
It was my error. I was probably moving too fast. I didn't get somebody to second check my work.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
So essentially a clerical error, right?
It was a clerical error, totally attributed to me. It's in my handwriting.
Yeah.
I see right where I did it. It is, the bottom line is it's not going to affect either the capital projects that we're looking at doing this year in the apparatus, or the maintenance, or the repair of the station, which are both things that we committed to the taxpayer. So I apologize for my error. Jenny and I have talked about how I can avoid it in the future, and that's the explanation.
All right.
Thank you, Chief, for digging into that and figuring it out. I guess maybe I'm not understanding this correctly, but that yellow line that you highlighted that's got the $3.7 million,
Yes.
that's actually 3.1 then, right? Based on the
Correct.
counties. So it's
Yes.
a difference of $600,000 or so for this year.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So we're still feeling pretty good about our ability to fund some of these capital projects with $600,000 less than what we originally thought we might have. Right?
Correct. Yes. The apparatus companies are getting away from prepayment and going to payment on delivery. So we're not even going to be paying for this fire apparatus for another 2 years, 18 to 24 months. So a lot of this is going to go in reserve and earn us some interest until we make that payment. So yeah, this is not going to affect anything that we've told the taxpayers, nor what I've told you we're going to do as far as capital projects for District 4 in 2024. There will be no effect at all, just less in savings. So possibly some less investment interest.
Right, right. Okay. Again, thank you for figuring all this out.
Yeah, I apologize again.
It
Stupid mistake.
happens. So I'm crystal clear, Chief. So what Commissioner Johnson just said. So the 3.7 million there for the 2024 budget, that contrasts with the actual amount that we're going to get, which is more like 3.1 million.
Yes.
Correct.
And what I'm going to do right now is change it.
Okay. 2024 meeting of the Whatcom County.
Hang on.
District number 4.
Okay. Sorry. That was me. I had YouTube open in the background.
No worries. So, okay. And again, so I'm crystal clear that 3.7 number was a result that was the result of the clerical error, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm gonna.
Gotcha. So you're now matching the budgeted amount to the amount we expect to get.
Yes. So here you can see this is from the county. Here you
Right.
can see $3,101,822 has
Got
now
it.
been entered into the budget form.
Okay.
And I'll go back to that and we'll look at what that.
Okay. Great. So again, to summarize, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, or maybe that's not a good term to say, but yeah. So yeah, I think we covered it.
Yeah. So you can see it here.
Yeah.
It's been entered. And then if we go.
Gotcha. So it was an error of projection, what we thought we would get. Now we have the actual numbers and we have gone back and resolved how that error in projection was made, correct? Does that accurately summarize what we're dealing with? Okay.
Correct. And we are still $1.1 million in excess revenue.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any other discussion or questions about this particular agenda item? And did we cover, go ahead if anybody has anything. And in doing so, we covered the EMS levy final rate, correct? The second agenda item. Anything else to say about that or questions about that from the other two commissioners? Looks like we lost Mark. Oh, there he is. Good. No other questions, Tim? Okay. Mark, you good? Any other questions?
That was weird. I just dropped off the meeting and then came back. So, but I didn't have any questions.
Okay, great. Okay, then moving on to the third agenda item, the Whatcom County Council's 2023-054 resolution. We discussed at length last week about whether or not we wanted to send a separate letter to the county council expressing our concerns about the process that they used to come to that resolution. And in the meantime, a couple of things has happened. Number one, I clarified with the chief that the draft language that was provided to all the fire district was simply that we weren't not at that time being asked to sign anything that everyone else was going to be signing. It was simply language that was drafted for the use by fire districts if they wanted to use it in sending their own note or letter of protest to the county council. In the meantime, Chief, I'll let you describe the meeting that happened with the one county council member and the result there, if you would.
So I think it was last Wednesday. There was a county commissioners meeting, and the group there met with Mark Stremler, who's the new county council person. He's gone around to any groups. He's come to the Whatcom County Fire Chiefs and Whatcom County Commissioners, and just introducing himself and asking how he can be of assistance. He brought up the resolution of protest, which I think probably about 7 districts or so have turned one in, and he asked some pretty pointed questions about it. I think he's in support of the fire districts, understands the frustration that the fire districts have, but kind of he made a point of saying that disjointed protests don't do the same thing as a unified letter. And so the county commissioners at that time they elected to draft a letter of protest that would be signed by the county commissioners executive board.
Yeah, the association, right? Yeah.
Yep. And sent in. I have not seen a draft of this letter. I don't know what it says. It's going to say something similar to what it says in their that resolution of protest.
So the language that we have in our packet is not that resolution that they are going to produce, right? Or the letters they're going to send. Okay.
I think it's very similar, but I don't know. You'd have to reach out. I would reach out to Ansel. Yeah. He's got some connections there. I don't have. That's not my group. I'm literally there to run the TV and the audio visual stuff. So they just let me kind of sit in the room.
Okay. So, well, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But basically, they're wanting to do something. They're going to do something as a whole, as opposed to these separate piecemeal resolutions.
Yeah.
So
at the County Commissioners Association meeting, they voted to send something to the county council signed by the executive board on behalf of everyone, right? Is that right? Okay. So, like you said, we don't know what that looks like yet. I will indeed reach out to Bruce and make sure that we get a copy of that. But regardless of any action that we take, that is going to happen, right? So, okay. So
it was a unanimous vote amongst those in attendance that they send a letter of protest or a letter of, letter of protest.
Great. Okay. So what I plan to do is I will reach out to Bruce, and if there is a way that we can, see the draft copy before it gets put before the executive board of the Commissioners Association, I'll make sure that we all get that and have an opportunity to comment on it. So yeah, I just don't know the process they're using for developing that or the timeline or anything, but I will reach out to Bruce and find out what that is. So I imagine that to me, that sort of negates the need for us to send anything separate. As Councilmember Stremler said, it would probably be more impactful if something went out from the Fire Commissioners Association in general. So that's my thought on the matter. Gentlemen, if you have any other comments, if you feel the need to send something separate or just monitor that process, what are any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I just agree with what you just said. I'd support that.
Okay.
Yeah, I concur as well.
Okay.
I would like to see what the draft looks like that comes from the Fire Commissioners Association.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's an improvement over the first draft that we saw a few weeks ago or last month, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have something in our packet that I think is the language that was originally provided to all the districts. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I would agree with that statement, Tim. Hopefully they can edit that just a bit. So, okay. Well, I will do that and get word out to you all about that process in some way. Any other discussion about that particular agenda item? We can keep it on our agenda for next month. Just a matter of monitoring that process if that works for everybody until it's actually delivered. Okay, no other discussion, then that item was finished. Let's move on into new business, and then Chief, I'll just let you have the floor right away. We have in our packet a draft capital purchasing policy that it looks like from our billing that Mr. Quinn has had an opportunity to review.
Yes. Yep. Mr. Quinn's taking a look at this. What we discovered as we started talking about doing these capital projects, both the facelift on the station and the apparatus purchase, went back and looked at District 4's purchasing policy. It was almost 20 years old. So this is a much more, and it was about a half a page. This is a little bit more robust. And this mirrors, this will mirror, so District 21 and District 4 will have the exact same purchasing policy if these are both put in places. That makes it obviously easier for staff to deal with, and hopefully easier for consolidation down the line, one less thing to have to do. Anyway, if you're having a rough time sleeping, I recommend this is some light reading in the evening. But yeah, this is a 30-day review, so there will be no vote on this until next month, due to the nature of the policy. It needs a 30-day review, as well as it can only be signed by the board or the board chair. This is not a policy that can be put in place by the fire chief. So it's a board action that has to take place.
So is the language that we have in the packet, is that the review, is that the version that Mr. Quinn has reviewed? Do we know? Okay, so that's ready for our perusal, like you said, and action at the April meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
So next month, at the next month's meeting, we basically, what would be before us is essentially either making changes or agreeing to it, not agreeing to it, and presuming we agree to it. We just say, we would support Steve signing it on behalf of the board. Is that kind of the next step?
Yeah, you should probably take a vote to approve the policy.
Right.
As a board, that would be my recommendation.
But then the practical effect of that is then Steve just signs it.
Steve can sign it, and then we're good to go.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, so if we like how this reads, we would be approving what we're seeing right now. There's no other changes you're expecting or revisions to what was in the packet?
No, sir. It's had all the revisions that both Richard Davis and Mr. Quinn and myself and Jessica Kohler, who's the financial specialist, took over for Benita, as well as I've had a couple of the higher level officers that have helped me with some bidding and some other big capital projects. I've had them take a look at it as well, so that and Sean Ward as well has also taken a look at it previously. So we've tried to get everybody that's going to be affected by this has taken a look at it from staff side.
Okay. And in that case, I probably have a couple quick questions on the policy. I kind of just skimmed through it. So the dollar levels that are in section 2.1, those are just what's D21 has as well now?
Those are the state. Those are set forth by the state.
Okay.
Stations. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
And just for your own peace of mind, I don't do that kind of work with those numbers without letting the board know. I can't. I have $100 limit at home, so I kind of.
It's a little more than that at the district, I think.
I may add a 0 or 2 to that, but I'm not going to do $350,000 worth of work without asking the board what kind of things you want me to do. So.
Wow, you got a much longer leash than I do. So I guess one question I had was in section 1.1, the purpose section, it refers to North Wacom Fire and Rescue.
That would need to be changed.
Okay, that's why I was just wondering. It should be District 4, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then at the very end.
Not off to a good start. That's the very first sentence.
Yeah, it is.
And then in section 13.3, I think there's also a reference to North Wacom Fire and Rescue.
Oh yeah, that's the address line there. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only 2 places I noticed that.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, Chief, this is a Lexable based policy, yes?
No, this came from the attorneys. No, I wasn't comfortable just using a Lexipol-based policy. It's been, we're putting it into a Lexipol, format, but no, this came from, I wanted this to come from a Washington State specific, right, attorney. I wasn't comfortable using a blanket policy.
So who actually drafted the bulk of it?
Richard Davis.
Okay, got it. Great. Any other comments or discussion about the proposed policy that we're going to review this month?
I just have one other just general question.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
My own curiosity. Do we have a small works roster?
We do. Actually, District 4 maintains a small works roster.
Okay.
It's it's unfortunate, but Sean Ward was actually the kind of the maintainer of it, and it's kind of hard to deal with. It's somewhat expensive, actually, I think, to kind of maintain. I'm actually working on it, hopefully to come to you next month to ask if we can get rid of it, give it to another district to do, because we have to, there's a lot of, there's rules and regulations around it. We have to advertise so many times a year, and you have to advertise in the Bellingham Herald, and then invoice districts and receive money from districts. And it's not a moneymaker, and it's kind of a time suck on staff's part, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
We could use, there's a website, MSRC, municipal
Research something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
MSRC.com. They're really a one-stop shop for getting a lot of questions about government and governance and finance. And they maintain a small works roster, kind of a statewide one that you can join for a few $100. And once I sort out the District 4 getting out of the small works roster business, I'm going to recommend that we go into the MSRC small works roster, as they maintain it. We can refer people to them. I think it's probably easier to get in and get enrolled as a contractor through the MSRC, and that way you're actually statewide as well.
Yeah, I like that idea of letting someone else manage that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other
So
board
does Jim.
on relies on that organization as well.
Yep. Okay, last minute or any other comments or questions about that? All right, very well. That concludes our new business. Next item on the agenda is correspondence, and I did just see a couple of things in the packet that I wanted to at least mention. Probably a good a time as any to, looks like there's a procurement law webinar that I certainly would at first blush like to attend. And it looked like on that document there was an amount we could pay if more than just me and maybe one other wanted, if we could pay $400 and allow basically anybody to attend. Just a question, is that something that any of you all would want to attend as well? Or Chief, do you know of any other staff members that would plan?
We're planning on attending staff wise, so we can add anybody that would like to the distribution list.
So we're going to pay the $400 and then just have an unlimited number of, okay, great. Well, I will RSVP for that then, because I definitely want to attend that. And I would commend it to the consideration of my fellow commissioners if they have the opportunity and the time. So looks like it might be valuable, particularly in this season of, we're about to procure a bunch of things. So anyway, then next on, looks like there was a letter from, I think it was a realty firm, basically about the fact that we, of course, because our station is right below major power lines, it looks like in 2026, they're going to do some work that does not appear that it's going to impact us at all. They're just sort of letting us know.
Correct.
So just want to make sure you all saw that. And then last but not least, the last item in our packet was a draft letter that we're working with Liz Loomis to develop and send to our constituents, just giving them an update on where we are with the additional funding that they graciously allowed us to have. I just kind of wanted to throw that open for discussion. I've had an opportunity to send my edits in, the chief sent his edits in, and this is the result. This is the final version that is proposed to go out eventually, Chief. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. My only comment, honestly, and we can talk about this more offline, is that since we aren't too far along at this point in the process, we're not telling our constituents a whole, we don't have a lot to tell them right now.
Right.
And so I guess I would want to make sure we're balancing the cost of sending out that mailer with the value of the information we're going to give them. I definitely am committed to communicating with them. I want to keep them informed at every step of the way. But when I read through this again today, Chief, my thought was, well, we don't have a lot to report. So maybe we should kick around delaying this a little bit until we can tell them that we have an awarded contract. I don't know. Those were just some of my thoughts. I thought I'd see what the rest of you thought about that, if anything.
When was the last time we sent a mailer out to our residents? Was it a thank you after the vote, or was it
No, we
prior,
didn't.
Did we send
Would
a
have been
thank you?
prior to the election.
Yeah,
prior
I
to the
thought
election?
it was before. Yeah, I don't think we
Okay.
sent a thank you via letter. I think it was the last appeal, and trying to encourage them to consider the factors before they voted. So yeah, it's time to send them something for sure. Again, I'm just trying to make sure how much, if maybe we could look at this, how much the letter isn't inexpensive to send. So I just want to make sure we're getting our bang for our buck.
Is that the form this kind of communication would take? It would be like a single page letter on letterhead in a regular envelope, as opposed to a card or something like that?
That's
I don't know. I don't know if it would be on a card or a trifold,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would
you
be,
recall from the different things we've mailed, is there much of a difference in cost depending on the form the communication takes?
that was what I was going to recommend, is that we get a bid for prices and find out what are they suggesting? Are they suggesting it on some sort of heavy card stock with 15 pictures and 30 colors? Or are we talking about, like I said, a trifold, with a little sticker on it to keep it from opening up on a sheet of good paper? I think there's going to be a huge price difference between the two. And I definitely think, we even got comments, Commissioner Cooley and I did, about why did you have to use color on your mailer, right? I mean, you can't win.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know a number of constituents do appreciate a something mailed, because they're not on social media, they don't get on the internet, So
Yeah, certainly you don't think there's any question that we need to communicate in this manner with a mailer. It's just, yeah, it sounds like we have a little bit of work left to do before we actually send it out. I guess I was sort of assuming we were sending exactly the same format that we did to the ones before the levy lid lift request, but those were glossy and catchy, and maybe this doesn't need to be that. And that was probably an incorrect assumption on my part. So
Commissioner Cooley, if it's okay, I'll reach out to Jessica and CCU and ask, like, hey, what are your recommendations for the actual print and delivery of this thing? And we can.
Yeah, and if you prefer, I can certainly do that.
If you would, that'd be great.
Yeah, why don't I reach out to her and ask the questions that I have, and I'll just copy you. Yeah, and I'll get information on that and her opinion, their opinion on whether we need to send it sooner rather than later, or maybe we wait a little bit longer until we have more meaty news to pass on, you know, because we got to weigh that with communicating with our constituents frequently enough that they don't forget about us. So, so,
Well,
okay.
I would support sending out some sort of communication sooner than later, just to keep the lines open
Gotcha.
with residents and whatever form that might take.
Okay.
So the only question, I think the letter reads really good. Thanks for working on this. The only question I had was the station repairs. Do we expect that we would be doing station repairs by the summer?
I'm hoping so. Yeah, part of that purchasing policy will help. Yeah, I don't know if they'll get started at, you know, this summer. There seems to be some more availability of contractors, I've noticed.
Okay.
So that, you know, everybody's not as packed, not quite as many spec homes are going up. So
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would agree with you, Tim. I think it's, if we're wondering whether we should communicate or not, we should probably go ahead and communicate, regardless of what we have to say, just to make sure they know where we're at. So that's certainly where I err as well, on that side of it. Yeah, and Chief, I'll get you offline, but I'd like to maybe chat with you sometime next week on the station repairs itself and what we as a board can do to help you, since you're a bit shorthanded with all the things you got going on. So,
okay.
so let's do that. Okay, I think that any other questions about that? Okay, I think that concludes the correspondence that I saw in the packet. Next item on the agenda is the next meeting is on April 15th. If everyone is still good with attending that, please let me know.
I'll be out of town and in a different time zone, but I'm going to take my stuff with me, and I can't promise I'll log in, but I'll try.
Sounds good. I should be available.
I will too.
Okay, great. All right, any suggestions for items for the next meeting that we haven't discussed already? All right, and if none, please feel free to get those to the chief, of course, before next month's meeting. And that's it. All that's left is for us to go sign the documents whenever we have a chance, and anything else for the good of the order. All right, thank you all, and we'll now declare the meeting adjourned at what I have is 12:38.